Welcome back to The Wild Way, episode number 2, Masculinity, What Went Wrong. Today we're going to dive deep into just homes without fathers. Look at some stats even of why boys a certain age have 5, 6, 7 times more likely to commit suicide, and even just percentages of dropouts, men in prison, etc. And just kind of look at the correlation of why masculinity went wrong with our current men in society today.
Yeah, man. Well, I think the important part to start with is kind of like the theological roots of it, kind of where we left off with Adam, right? Adam is the first man, and he completely screws things up. And he does so because he's proud. Basically, he chooses to define right and wrong for himself rather than receiving from God. And I think the sin or the fatal flaw, you could say, even if you're not a Christian, the fatal flaw of every man is pride. We have this desire to assert ourselves in ways that is not according to our purpose, in ways that pushes other people away, in ways that puts other people down. And Adam is a great example of how not to do that. And I know in my own life, my own pride and my own stubbornness, my own unwillingness to listen to other people has just caused me tremendous headache and heartache that was all completely avoidable. So I don't know, have you guys seen that at work in your own life? Pride is kind of like the root of all evil in your own hearts.
I think takes really some deep diving on my end to identify it as pride.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've definitely have failed as a man throughout my life. The reason why, to be honest, I have not thought about it enough to specifically pinpoint it as being pride.
Yeah. I say probably the heart of pride is to want to define yourself, right? And you can, that kind of lies at the root of every behavior. No, I want to do what I want to do. It's going from like having an appropriate amount of responsibility and authenticity to like asserting yourself above and beyond what God says you should do. So, Pete, how about you, man?
Yeah. I've often thought of it as like the umbrella.
Yeah.
For me. Because so many decisions, it doesn't matter what it might be, big or small, it comes back to that place of, I think I know better than God. I'm going to say that I need independence from God in this moment, or I'm going to be independent from him. And, and pride is so rooted in self and just like all those decisions that come from that. It's prideful. Yeah. And, I mean, we hear it in the Bible a lot. I mean, many times God opposes the proud over and over and over. And just a good reminder.
Yeah. I think that's such a key point of like, pride is really focused on self. And it's so interesting to me that someone like Richard Dawkins talks about, famous atheist, talks about how we have this selfish gene. Right. And so whenever I'm talking to somebody who's doesn't have a Christian or biblical framework, I try to explain sin. It's just the insatiable selfishness, and I think that really is resonant with all of our experience.
Yeah.
I'm just constantly obsessed with self. So Adam screws things up for all of us. And then this just has this cascading effect because I think as men, and you can take issue with this, but I don't care. You can click to another video.
He's back. We just got warmed up.
I got all the attitude.
I forgot he was here.
We are unapologetically and authentically ourselves, even when we're wrong. I'm going to fail spectacularly.
I'm going to go all in, even if I'm wrong.
I'm going to learn pretty fast, right? Maybe that's the pride kicking in. Maybe not for you guys to tell me. But
comments.
Yeah, comment.
Right
Put it in
there.
the comments. All right. I think that we as men learn from other men what it means to be a man.
Absolutely.
And ideally our fathers, right? Adam was supposed to learn what it was like to be a man from God. And he said, no thanks, I'd rather define my manhood in this way. And so he asserts himself as God's enemy, saying, you don't know what you're talking about. And so often our issue is, one, we don't have a good example. And then two, we buck the system even when we know the right thing to do. And so I think we see a huge crisis. And I just kind of want to run through some stats when it comes to the boy crisis. And, this is not something that gets a lot of airtime in our world. And I think that's something that might even be counterintuitive because we're seeing a cultural reckoning with men who have abused their power, as they should be dealt with appropriately. But
and boy crisis meaning?
Yeah, but that young men in our world in the 2020 and are just suffering and doing way worse than they've done in past generations. So here's some stats. In the area of education, boys are undereducated compared to their female peers. There's less men going to college than ever, and they're doing worse in school and grade school. In health, in the men's average lifespan is decreasing over the past several years. And in 14 of the 15 categories for the leading causes of death, men lead. And this one is incredibly alarming. But for boys from the age of 15 to 19, they are 3 times more likely to kill themselves than women are. And for boys 20 to 24, they're 4.5 times more likely to kill themselves. So, and then we've seen suicide climb off the charts, and it's primarily a guy's issue. And then lastly, violence. We see lashing out. And I would say it's probably the root of this is uncontrolled emotion, right? 93% of people in prison today are men. 90% of mass shooters are men. 90% on average of people who are being recruited to extremist groups are men. And so we see this massive crisis. And I don't know, have you guys seen this happen with peers, with friends, or is this something that kind of like shocks you with the statistics?
I'm not shocked at all with the statistics. Yeah, it just makes me sad, man. Like, I can see that to be true in our society. Just why?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what we're here to talk about.
That's what we're here to talk about. What went wrong? Have you seen it, Pete?
Yeah. I haven't seen it up close and personal on some of those levels of suicide, thank God, and extremist groups, but I know it's there.
Yeah.
And it's really sobering.
Yeah. But what do you guys see as some major root underlying factors for this kind of boy crisis?
Man, number one, like you said, no fathers.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Yeah.
So men, you can't learn how to be a man from a woman. You are supposed to learn how to be a man from your father.
Yeah.
So if your father doesn't know how, or if he doesn't teach you or pass it on, we get this.
Yeah.
Reckless boys.
Yeah. And I'm not a big fan of caveats, but I think we can all say, thank God for good moms.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Teaching us character. So again, we're not defining manhood in opposition to womanhood.
Good.
Not at all.
Right? They're incredibly complementary as we see it. But I think that you make the perfect point, Charles, is that what does that look like for me as a man? Right? Like, I can have a great mom, but I still have to answer that question. I'm not a woman.
Absolutely.
I'm a man.
Yeah.
My soul is, my biology is, what does this mean for me? And so what do you think, Pete? Have you seen this kind of epidemic of fatherlessness and how that plays out in our world?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, it goes back to men being in prison. I think I had a friend in a small group recently say that, boys go into prison and they come out as boys. Like they're
as
men,
bullies.
They come as boys.
So they don't mature.
They go in as a boy and they come out as basically a boy in a man's body.
Yeah.
Because no father there, and they're raised without a father in prison too, and that's a huge issue. So yeah, I would say that for sure.
Yeah, and I think the epidemic of fatherlessness is uncalculable damage has been done by this. Like, if you could change one thing about the U.S. that would solve the most problems, I think fatherlessness, if you could give every household a strong father, and again, not taking away anything from awesome single mothers or moms who are just crushing it, right? Yeah. There's always exceptions to the rule, but the facts remain, right? I think, what is it? The stats right now is that 1 in 3 families does not have a father in the house, the biological father.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's just sad. I think about my life, bro, if it wasn't for my dad, I'd be in prison. I have so many issues. I was a handful. I was strong-willed and, all this stuff. You guys know me. I'm still a lot to deal with right now, let alone with a good, loving, strong-willed father who taught me what it was like to be a man and how to control my passions and my emotions and all these things. So, dude,
man, that's a blessing that you had him there, really.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I see this, like, I have the blessing of just walking with a lot of young guys in this age range as a campus minister and dealing primarily with 18 to 23-year-old guys. And I can count on probably two hands the guys that I know that had really good dads. And I know dozens and dozens and dozens of guys. And so I'm just going to assume from the get that you didn't have a godly man in your life. And I will be pleasantly surprised. Praise God that you do. But like, I'm assuming that I've got to now take that role in your life. And that's going to come with a lot of bumps because you're pretty independent by now.
Yeah.
You know? So Pete, did you have a dad in the house growing up? What was your experience like?
Yeah, I had a dad. My parents divorced early, so I actually had two technically.
Okay.
And got to see two different ways of what it looks like to be a man, but I say they both raised me awesome. I mean, learned the value of hard work. Very, very grateful that I was raised in a Christian home as well.
Yeah.
Really godly father, a biological father. So, I couldn't have been where I was without his guidance spiritually. Even to this day, even with the Kairos Journal, he was the one who taught me like to read and to pray and to use, a piece of paper to record what you're hearing, what you're writing, what you're reading. So yeah, I mean that was foundational. I think if I had a dad without that foundation, I would be in prison too. So
For sure, man.
Because 1/3 of dads might not be in the home, but how many are in the home but are absent?
Yeah.
And that's a whole other issue. But
Yeah. For me, man, I had a good dad, godly man. He wasn't like the sit down and read the Bible with you kind of guy, but he taught me what it was like to have character, teaching me how to use tools, just helping me to grow up and telling me a lot with just handling like life skills. I think I remember like as a teenager sitting around, like probably had something to do with girls, like I'm 15 probably. And I'm just like, yo, dad, you're killing my vibe right now. and I remember thinking to myself, all right, I'm going to do what my dad tells me this one time. And if he's wrong, I'm not going to do it again. And I fully expected him to be wrong because I didn't agree with him. And then it happened exactly how he told me, down to the small details. And I was like, dang.
You know what he talking about.
Yeah, and so we had a really strong bond of trust. And even through those teenage years, I really have like maintained that bond of trust, and I have a really close relationship with him today. So Charles, what's it been like for you, man?
So last thing Pete said, I guess my story is my dad was technically in the house, but he wasn't really there. I didn't really spend a lot of time with him. To be honest, like just transparent, it was kind of an abusive household. So that's kind of what I got from my dad is I learned what not to do from him. So I didn't learn how to be a man from my dad. To be honest, for a long time, I struggled with what that even meant. Like, I had no idea what does that mean to be a man. I had a great mom in the house, Christian mom, brought me to church all the time. So I was a Christian. So my life didn't look like what the other young boys around did. Like I didn't look like them. So from their perspective, I wasn't a man because I wasn't acting like them. So it was kind of set me down a road of I just created my own identity. I believe we mentioned that before. So I just, what does it mean to be a man? I was like, I don't know. I know what it means to be Charles, so that's what I'm gonna be.
Charles, and we've talked about this before, just kind of like, in life, you had a pretty significant turning point when you read a certain book. Why don't you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, man. The Wild at Heart by John Eldridge.
Buy it now.
Buy it now. Shameless plug. I wish we were like connected.
The only thing is he spelled wild wrong.
With the Y, John.
Yeah, well, why? Where's the purpose, John? Come on.
John, post in the comments.
Don't worry. We'll apologize when we have you on as a guest.
One day. We're shooting for the stars.
No, you're going to be here. It's okay.
But that book, I tell you all the time, that book changed my life. I had no idea what it meant to be a man. Just the way he lays it out in his book. I don't know, I could go through the points.
Well, 3 points that are really helpful.
3 points in the book he lays out. Every man needs an adventure to live, a battle to fight, and a beauty to rescue. So all these are like tied to your identity as a man.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I had a good dad, and I read that book, and I was blown away. I was like, "This is awesome." John Eldridge is like just the man. We're in sync about this.
That was pretty good.
You missed your chance, Peter.
That was good.
Let's try it again. Let's try it again.
1, 2, 3. The man.
Back on track.
Back on track. Yeah, man. I think that just kind of epidemic though of fatherlessness. And Charles, I just want to say thank you for opening up. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I know it's not easy to talk about, even if you've processed a lot of that. And you know, we all look to men that are older than us to define what it means to be a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the absence of that man, we have peers, which we already feel peer pressure to begin with, right? Like, and that, hey, you're not a man because you don't sleep with all these girls. You're not a man because you know you get your glasses knocked off your face or whatever. You're not a man. No, straight up. I had that was a defining moment in my life. I wore glasses. I wasn't a big guy. I was skinny. I feel
bad. I got that.
I got in one fight and I lost it big time because I didn't fight back. I wasn't prepared. Right. And so I you know, those moments that happen to you in elementary school kind of thing that are like, yo, bro, you just got to process that. Right. That doesn't define me. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're all here to do, is to kind of say, well, we all have those experiences.
Yeah.
And so how do I know what to keep and what to throw away? And so, Pete, when you think of, I think toxic masculinity is what comes to mind for a lot of people. And this is where we're going to kind of dive into this here of when I think of manhood, right? Most people think of manhood as something that's going to be oppressive to them, something that's going to be stifling them.
Yeah.
I think, Charles, you might speak to this too, of even men trying to live up to manhood is going to be stifling and oppressive to them. So what do you think of when you think of toxic masculinity?
Oh man, I think of apathy. I always think, you know, apathetic and just like not caring and checking out, and you know, you can throw passive in there.
Yeah.
Passiveness. You know, because back to the episode 1, we're talking about Jesus. You know, whether you believe in Jesus or not, one thing is for sure is he was not passive.
No,
you know,
yeah,
he
fully engaged.
You know, the lion and the lamb, like we see both, and when he's, you know, living out that purpose and he's talking to Pharisees or even teaching, like he is going at it and he's not backing down because he knows where he's rooted. And so I think that's just a personal conviction myself, is to have that passion and to know that purpose and to be able to go after it, even in that dangerous way that we're talking about, which could simply mean vocalizing, standing up for what you believe, not backing down, not being silent all the time, and actually caring about something.
Actually caring.
Actually caring. And that would probably be the word compassion.
Yeah.
Beyond a thought or a head nod.
Yeah.
I actually care, but I was on my couch and I just saw it, so I gave it a thumbs up.
I think that's the difference between like compassion and pity, right? Is compassion is when you actually act on it.
Right.
It's emotion that produces action.
Right.
And that's why I love Jesus had compassion on the crowds. And he did something. He fed them. He healed them. He preached to them. He invited them to the kingdom.
Right.
And we can see, there's so many things we see on the news that it's overwhelming. And I think a lot of guys just shut down. I can't do anything, or I feel afraid, or I feel anxious. So I'm like, check out.
Right.
Passive. Charles, how about you? When you think of toxic masculinity, what else?
What I think of?
Yeah.
What else? Just laziness. I guess it ties back to what you just said, passivity. Just not being active, not being engaged.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of the power and authority that we were created to have and using it for the absolute wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Just toxic, just using it, in the wrong way.
Yeah. I think that's still the lesser of two evils, quite honestly, of the same coin of masculinity. Because quite honestly, if you flip it, it's abuse.
Absolutely.
Right? The abuse of women, the abuse of children, the abuse of power in government, over nations, the abuse of employees, right? The people that are under you, the people that are around you.
Yep.
And, you know, the reality is we're physically stronger than women and children. And so throughout history, when we think of, like, you know, I'm sure a lot of people wished that the men that they can think of were passive.
Yeah.
Right. And so what we're dealing with is two ways to fall off the way. You know, you can fall off in the direction of passivity, and we can fall off in the direction of aggression or abuse. I think is probably the best way to put it. I don't think aggression is necessarily bad in the right situations. So, and I think the statistics, bro, of women that have been abused by men is just devastating. I mean, it's an incredible amount of people.
We
it's
have
like,
numbers on that?
I don't have numbers on it, but what I've heard before is 1 in 3. 1 in 3 have, and that's in a sexual manner. And that is just, you know, like as a man who's trying to live this thing the right way, that is unacceptable. Disgusting, yeah. And so what do? We can't not be men because certain men have tarnished what it means to be a good man.
Yeah.
we've got to step up and say, hey, I'm sorry, they did it wrong, but I'm going to go do it right. And I'm not going to let somebody else's bad example tarnish what it means for me to be 100% man. Unashamedly, authentically ourselves.
Yep.
So, yeah, machismo, right? The don't care about anything, run you over kind of dude, finance bro.
Wall Street, bro.
Yeah. Or like, I just rewatched The Joker. Like the three guys on the train.
Still haven't seen it.
You
yet.
haven't?
No.
You're not a man.
I
You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh.
I guess
Well,
I'm a man.
I'll have
He's
a
the
conversation
only man
with somebody who's listening. The three guys on the train in the subway that the Joker has his way with, I think they were created as archetypes of or stereotypes.
I got to go watch this when I go home now.
I'm gonna do it tonight too.
Yeah, let's watch it.
I have a watch party.
Yes.
Yeah, it's creepy. So just
I heard.
be prepared.
Leave
Very
all the lights
creepy.
on.
It's one man's descent into
The lights on.
psychosis. Yeah,
That's why I've been staying away from it, because I don't want to go there.
I've seen it 3 times, and the third
Have
time
you really?
the third time I watched
That
it, I was like,
explains it
"This
all.
is just torture." This is I'm going nuts, man. Why so serious?
Now
Charles?
we know why. We need
so
to stay
serious?
away from it.
Yeah. So what are I don't know if we want to out our dads, but what are some things that we saw? Let's keep it positive, that we should improve. We think of manhood as passed from generation to generation. One man helps to bring definition to another. In an ideal scenario, a father should come to a son and say, "Hey, son, this is how you do this. This is how you, do your finances. This is how you treat your mother. This is how you treat women that are your age." And a father's supposed to discipline a son when he willfully disobeys the right thing, right? God disciplines us. So what is something in our lives that we're trying to do better than our fathers did? Maybe they did it well and we're just trying to upgrade it. And maybe we don't have to say where they started, but we just think, hey, I'm consciously trying to upgrade this for my next generation.
So when I think of that, the scripture that comes to mind is Jesus says, "Love others as you love yourself," right? The first step is love yourself before you're even able to love somebody else. So I say that to say what I am trying to do better than my father is knowing myself, like my purpose, why I'm here, knowing what I was created to do. So in that way, I can love everybody else in my life, if that makes any sense. Like I have to know myself before I can even think about leading a family, starting a family, being good to me before I can be good to somebody else, before I can be good to you. I can't hate myself and try to love you because I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just gotta be healthy.
Yeah.
Get healed up.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
For me, it was learning how to talk about sex. My dad was a little squeamish about talking about sex. And so now my job is basically to talk to guys about sex, because if you're going to help some young guys grow, and I mean, Charles is an expert at talking about sex, and we're going to have this conversation. We're going to have lots of great in-depth conversations about sex, here in this podcast, because it's an important part. Peter's going to lead them because he has successfully had it. Charles is going to be high-fiving and amening because it's his favorite topic, and I'm going to be awkwardly sitting here.
You're going to make these people think that I'm a freak.
Guys, we're just having fun. This is part of the fun. Okay.
We'll get Mike Todd in here.
Get Mike Todd. You get Mike Todd in here. That's all we'll be talking about.
Yo.
Oh my gosh.
Yo. One thing my dad, only time, did I tell you this before? The only time my dad mentioned sex to me.
Oh, yeah, you did tell me. Yeah. Say it. You gotta say it.
Oh my God, it was so dumb. This is what he said. Just randomly one day, walking up the stairs of my house, both me and my sister are sitting on the couch, just randomly, unexpectedness. He says, "Kids, if you want to have sex, use a condom." And then just walks out. I'm like, what? What? What is that? I grew up in a Christian house. I'm like, if my mom heard this, she would kill him right now.
Thanks for the talk.
Yeah, that's it. That was my talk.
Yeah. And no, my dad is a good dude, but solid dude. But I just think that's not something we didn't really talk about, because that's something he definitely didn't talk about with his father.
Yeah.
It's so awkward. And he's a conservative guy, great dude. But it's just like I had to now realize that I've got to learn how to, navigate this in the specifics as a Christian man. And, what does that look like as completely out of step with our culture? And then I've got to learn how to communicate that and have awkward conversations with other guys that I'm mentoring.
Yeah.
And saying like, hey, where are you at? Where is this is there brokenness in your life in this area? And then how can I walk you from your broken and sinful state to the righteousness and the way of Christ? So that's so much of my life is talking about it now that I'm like, yeah, got to get better.
So now we know whose favorite topic it is.
I don't know if it's my favorite. It's definitely a common one though.
Yeah.
Pete?
Yeah, I'd say communication.
Okay.
Definitely. I think another thing that fathers, but parents pass on generationally is, your arguing style or how you handle conflict.
Yeah.
And that's something that one of the best things I learned in pre-marriage counseling was how to recognize how you do it. How to fight. Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. How to fight.
Yeah.
To recognize how you do it, just based inevitably from your family and how your partner did, and then how you can improve. And so that to me is definitely how I want to improve, and that's communication.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thankful for good dads.
Yeah.
Thankful that we have a lot of great men around us, right?
Yeah.
I think that's something that in our community behind the scenes is we've got tons of guys that we can look up to that are doing it right.
Yeah.
And they've had to walk through a ton of healing in themselves.
Yep.
And I'm really excited about is sitting down with them and talking with them about their journey as men, their stories, and bringing that to you guys.
Yep.
And really just be joining their stories with this community and this brotherhood to just learn from them. And to, I just think it's hard to become something you've never seen.
Absolutely.
And so actually Henry Noy said that years ago in a church service. And he's going to be one of our first guests. He doesn't know it yet.
He doesn't know it, but we can't wait for you, Henry.
Yeah. We're going to have part 2 with him. We're going to have part 3 with him. He's going to be a regular guest. And as long as he says yes.
Our next co-host, Henry Noy.
Our next guy, I don't know if he wants to be a co-host. He probably would be too bored to sit around with us.
Especially around you.
Definitely around me.
Just bore everybody to death.
Yeah. As soon as we start talking about spades, though, Henry lights up like a firecracker. Oh, dude, he can smack talk with the best of them. I love it. We should do. We're gonna do a whole episode on
spades.
Bro, how to smack talk. But
Pete would own that episode.
Pete would own that. Yeah, he's good. Pete's actually like the quiet competitor.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what?
It's true.
Eat my dust.
That's why I don't play Uno with you anymore.
I know. It's because you suck at
Yo,
Uno.
you don't. You definitely don't play
Yo,
Uno anymore.
talk about conflict.
Changing rules.
Oh my gosh.
Spicy Uno.
Unbelievable.
Roll with the punches, bro.
Gosh, I was trying
He
to
said,
roll.
I did roll. I rolled out.
I rolled out.
I am.
Well, at least you can teach your kids how to play Uno
Yeah.
The right way.
the right way.
Yes.
Oh, man. Cool. Well, guys, I think just to kind of put a finishing touch on this topic is what we've kind of already mentioned is that's why we're here, is to fix the wrong image we have about masculinity and put the right images of what it means to be a man in front of us. And because we're still growing, we're still in process, we're never going to be done. And then put it in front of you guys and have great conversations around the specifics, the how-tos.
Yeah.
And so I want people to walk away with some really specific things. Say for somebody that had a great father and is looking to grow, and for somebody who had no father and is saying like, man, where do I even start? What's my next step? I want you to just go around and give some really practical, whether it's a thought, a resource, or something just to turn to take this next step on their journey. So Pete, why don't you start us off? What's a really practical next step to get a good example of a man?
Shoot us an email.
Yeah.
But seriously, we'll pray over any email we get, and just start there and ask and feel safe to ask questions. I would say, and we can help point you in that direction too. And I would say it might be even something. Instead of going to something, you might have to recognize someone in your life, some man that you actually have to step away from. And I'm thinking more on the media, but friends too.
Yeah.
But outside of fathers and the influence there, I was influenced a lot. We probably all were, but the movies we watched and the stars we see, and it's like they're cool, they're smoking, they're doing this or whatever. And so you might have to pull the blinders off and see that for what it is. See the friend who's dragging you down for what it is, and then that's the first step.
Dude, that's so good, Pete. I wasn't even thinking that. Recognize the parts that are toxic in your life.
Right.
Yeah, cut those ties.
Yeah, it's gonna be painful, but
Yeah.
it's a huge part.
And then shoot us an email, DM us on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah.
5-star rating.
Plug.
Plug.
Yeah. How about you, Charles? What do you think? Practical
Man, I
next
said
steps.
it. I mentioned it already. I'm going to mention it again. Seriously, I'm not playing when I say this book changed my life. Wild at Heart by John Eldridge.
Yeah.
Man, that book changed me. And he has a follow-up to it. It's called Fathered by God. Basically for men who did not have a father, even for ones that did, just showing you how God has been fathering you the whole time anyway, even though you may not have had a father. So he dives into that. So I plug those resources, man. I actually tell every younger boy that I talk to, I'm like, yo, get these books.
Yeah.
Like specifically ones that I know who did not have a great father around. I always plug those books. They help me a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that is just great stuff. And I think those 2 books alone, he's got a whole, ransomheart.com,
Ransom Heart,
set of resources, but just read those 2 books.
Yeah.
Great books. Well, I think you guys had 2 great things. So for me, I'm going to say start where you are. Think about the men that are already in your life, peers that you have that you just need to sit down and have coffee with.
Yeah. I
know it's a little tough with Corona, FaceTime somebody and just have a vulnerable conversation like, hey, I'm trying to grow as a man and I'm not quite sure the next steps, but do you want to come with me? You would say that to a peer. Actually, what most people don't know is that Pete and I got to be buddies because somebody set us up on a mandate. It was like a legit a mandate.
Wait, I need to hear this. Somebody set you up on a mandate.
Yeah. Aaron.
Yep.
He's like, hey, Billy, I think you get along with this guy. He plays soccer too. Here's his number. Text him. And I was like, yo, this guy seems pretty cool. I was actually nervous when I texted Pete. We met up at La Colombe.
Yes.
And I was excited. And then I felt that same excitement back. And I was like, we had this moment like, did we just become best friends?
We did.
I think he likes me.
I might have texted Bianca that.
I love this.
Hey, how'd your man day go? It was great. Oh, man.
This is funny.
Play some soccer. So I say start where you are with the healthy people and maybe some friends that you have some longevity with already and that you can just take things to a more serious level with. And then find a man that you look up to. And then if he's comfortable, offer to take him out to breakfast and buy it. And just ask him questions. Shut up and listen. Take notes. Do you know how respectful and honoring that is? When you say, hey man, do you mind if I write this down? And just start taking some notes. And then just listen, ask them about their life. Get on FaceTime with them if they can't meet in person. And just find somebody who's a generation or 2 older than you. I've got, and I lament the fact that I don't have more grandfather age men in my life that can just give me a 40-year vision, right? I'm 29 now. I want to be preparing for when I'm 70 and living my life in reverse. I got one guy who's 80 years old and we write letters. He's an old mentor. He knew my grandfather, who I never met because he passed away. And so having that perspective on life has helped me. And whenever we meet up, I just listen.
That's awesome.
And so that's an incredibly cherished relationship that I have. So I would say start where you are, meet with those people, initiate with vulnerability, and just say, hey, I want to grow. Or can I listen? And start from there. Cool,
man.
Great.
I think those are some practical next steps.
Yeah.
And so until next time, Pete, what do we do?
Stay wild.
Stay wild. Let's go.
You missed it again, Pete. You missed it again.
What did I miss?
Go be wild, baby.
Go to join us.
The second Stay Wild?
1, 2, 3.
Stay wild.
Are we harmonizing?
Yeah,
I was trying to go
That was
higher.
kind of like happy birthday.
Yeah.
That was. I liked it.
That's good.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Wild Way Podcast. Make sure to like it, subscribe down below, drop a comment, and share with a friend if you enjoyed it.